Okay, we're recording now. Hi, welcome to the Component Standard Working Group meeting for Tuesday, June 25th of 2019. Today we have a little bit of a more intimate meeting because Mike is out and I believe Lucas is not going to be able to join us at least for the beginning portion of this meeting. And so we've got me and George here and just an agenda to kind of review what we talked about previously last week. And so with regard to review, the pull request, which is 76805 to Kubernetes, is still just pending review. I haven't flagged anybody for that. I am the owner of that PR, and I need to chase some folks down from probably SIG API machinery to get everything through. I can see what I can do to link up with Stefan about that. So I'll just take a note here. All right. Stefan, it's about 76805. And then with regard to the kube controller manager config kep for, oh, I linked this up to the wrong thing. Never mind. So here, let me share my screen to show what we're talking about. Can you see my screen, George?
Yes.
Yeah, I made a mistake this morning when I was reading through a kep. So I'm going to go undo that. This is kube. So this is the kube proxy kep, which Rusty did write up. But for some reason, this note is incorrect. This is not the kube controller manager kep. He's working on the kube proxy kep. As far as the KCM kep, we should likely take a look just to see if we've got thing here. C group driver. Oh, that's kind of nice. That could be very useful. Akihiro
What's the
Suda.
num what's the PR of the what's the number of the PR?
It's
1084.
1084. It's not related immediately to this SIG, but I'm just very interested in this rootless work. Akihiro Suda is a contributor from long time, has been contributing a long time to like the Moby project, and before it was Moby, Docker, Runc,
Cool.
and his kind of esoteric interest is getting everything to run in user namespaces, so that you don't need root to do containers. And I'm actually really struggling on a personal project for this C group stuff right now. That's actually relevant to my interests. But here's Cloud Controller Manager, migration. Yeah, we don't have a kep for the KCM. I don't think here.
The only thing in the meeting notes that I've seen is the link to the doc, but even in the doc, it doesn't have any mention of an open PR.
Which portion of the meeting notes? Oh, the kube controller manager config here.
Yeah.
One. Yeah, I believe this is what Lucas and Stefan started. Yeah, so that's correct. Rusty was working on the kube proxy v1 beta 1 kep, and then this serialization proposal was something that Lucas and Stefan wrote at KubeCon. So that makes sense. which means I believe that the edit that I just made to the last week's agenda is actually correct. I think we just typoed that this is actually supposed to be kubeproxy.
Okay.
So I did leave a small action item here, which is that, or it was really a response to something Rossi left in the document, is that we already do have an issue for this action required step right here. Lucas opened it up in January. And if we tag it with a milestone, we should be able to list it as completed here.
Okay.
Do you happen to be a member of the Kubernetes org already, George?
Yes.
Yeah. So honestly, I mean, if you want to go do something related to the project, you could follow up there, hop to the issue, tag it with a milestone, and then you could even, I don't know, you even send Rusty a PR to change that line, or just leave one of those comments that allows you to change things here. And that
Okay.
could be a thing if you would want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here, I'll just leave it in the notes that you'll do that. So, we'll tag milestone on issue and update, or I'll just say comment on get. Okay. Cool. So there's that. And then you said last week that you had kind of read through this KEP already, or was it a different one?
I read through the. I've been going through the kubeproxy. I went down the rabbit hole to try to actually understand most of it. Other than that, I've been also catching up on the Codec Factory PR that you have open.
Okay.
And yeah, that's been my last week. That's been my last week.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good to know. Hopefully you can't hear my dog drinking water here.
No, actually, I can't. But
okay, good. And I'm always like unsure of how much background noise is coming through. But, so, yeah. So, sorry, you said this KEP and then the Codec Factory options, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Codec Factory options thing, I think, is pretty ready to go, except somebody asked for, Han from API Machinery asked for a little bit more detailed doc string.
Yeah.
I'll probably do that today and then ping them to see if they'll get it in. The context on that is that, yeah, you need to be able to configure the serializers that are part of the Codec Factory. So the Codec Factory gives you ways to like mutate and like read in and output Kubernetes objects in kind of some really simple ways to the user.
Yeah.
But then we need to construct these serializers in memory in order for that to occur. So that is the basis for a series of PRs that I've split up from a bunch of work that Lucas did. So I have a bunch of local branches, and I've put up some patches, some of which I've closed, that need to depend on the Codec Factory's work. It's primarily to use Codec Factory to test APIs. So, did you see that part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, saw that part.
Okay, cool. So I'll just make a note on that. Cutting 7685. test machinery for configs. Really, it's providing test harnesses, I guess. Okay. Pop this off there. And then this will postpone to next available meeting. And we have codec factory options thing. Once that's in, we'll have the test harness. The test harness is going to need a little bit of love. Are you educated, George, on, you said you were a longtime user, so you understand a little bit of the semantics of kind of the APIs, about like API versioning and that kind of thing. Do you need any resources in particular to kind of understand more about why we have group versions and kinds and what the criteria are?
I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay on that area. Actually, going through the your PR was a good opportunity to get a lot of context on even the internals, how schemes are actually built, and the whole set of serializers.
Yes.
So
Cool.
so even your PR, I think, is like a good contributor onboarding doc.
Okay. Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience for me, for sure. Lucas kind of pointed me to that task, and I had a similar kind of learning journey there. And like, okay, I'm starting to uncover what these API internals actually look like.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like you're pretty hungry to get into the code, which is a great thing for this particular working group. There is something that's maybe a little bit less interesting and a more chop wood, carry water, is Mike pinged us on, I have to remember where he put this issue. It's in the legacy flag repo.
What's the legacy flag repo?
Something like this. There it is.
It's actually called like, okay, awesome. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah. So we've got this one, prototype examples and existing components. Yeah. So kubeadm and kuproxy. Realistically, I know Mike said that he wasn't going to be able to get to this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What's your GitHub handle, George?
Alejandro. Actually, when you type Jorge, I'm the second one. That way, ALE. If you type ALE, I should be like the first one. I just saw my.
Do you prefer Jorge over George? Sorry.
I'll take either one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll call you Jorge if that's your name. Sorry, I just was reading it in the English way. And cool. So you this
The
one.
second one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one. Okay. So I'll take that one.
Have you compiled Kubernetes binaries and run tests and done some of the PR workflow before?
Most of the work that I done is within the end-to-end test framework. So
Okay.
I get the basic. I done the simple examples with compiling Kubernetes, running a kind cluster, and I know how to compile the end-to-end framework and all that. But some other details of how to compile some other or some other parts of actually never mind. I remember there's documentation on how to compile other things in Kubernetes. So I want
Yeah, it just helps sometimes to just have like a little bit of hand holding there, just because there's a lot of options and it's
Mhm.
not realistic that anybody can actually read the make files. Um, but I'd be happy to just show you some pointers for specifically what you're trying to do. Um, you use a Linux machine? You have one available, or are you on
Linux and a Mac.
you're on a Mac?
A Linux and a Mac. So I have
Okay,
all
yeah,
environments.
yeah. It just helps to have like if when I was on a Mac before working on Kubernetes, I was using a Vagrant environment with like Bazel. And but yeah, I mean, if you have the native Linux machine, then that that can help with your workflow.
Okay.
So you can just run the components natively.
Mhm.
Yeah, just getting into that dev test submit cycle. It there's some friction points there sometimes, so we just want to make it easy. Because it sounds like with the way that you're reading the code, once you're in there making changes, you'll be able to understand how to retrofit some stuff and get some feedback from people.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Okay.
so this is just involving understand how flags are registered in the existing component, and then I'll say um, and proxy. I probably proxy. The reason I say that is because I don't know. I don't have a particular reason for saying that, but cool.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Flag
Plus, I always wanted an excuse to dive into kubeproxy.
vendor in this lib not already present. Use it to standardize the approach for flags. So. And then I'll link to that here. Okay, so Jorge will look at implementing a legacy flag example. Okay, cool. There's that.
Awesome.
And yeah, my handle on Slack is StealthyBox. You just if you decide that the docs are a little confusing, just feel free to ping me,
Okay.
and I can send you make commands or Bazel commands or whatever you want.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. It's pretty like it's a complex project, and I know you've been working, with the test suite and all that already. So it always just helps to have somebody who's willing to take a little time. Lucas, was always great like that for me. So, and
It's an amazing. Yeah, it's super amazing to actually have somebody that will just sit down and listen to you.
yeah, I mean, I've found it pretty necessary, to level up and get proficient in areas that I didn't know anything about. It always just helps. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and everybody is super welcoming. But I'm happy to personally help out if you choose to reach out. And then yeah, so I'll work on getting the component config stuff in for Codec Factory options and then the test harnesses.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to take a look at the legacy flag issue there that I linked in the doc, then I think that Mike would be really happy to have some help in that area. I just haven't been able.
Okay.
And then we'll have to postpone the contributor onboarding thing to when Lucas is around because I think he wanted to take point on that and get pretty involved. I did, I guess, just for the recording, This thing from last week about Lucas stepping away from the project and me taking his place did get enough votes. So we went through the ceremonies to change SIG-YAML and stuff like that. So that all of the automation now recognizes me as the co-chair. And then I updated that here in the front matter, just for the recording's sake. But yeah, Jorge, thank you so much for joining and very consistently coming and taking an interest in the project and getting all of the context necessary to do this deeper code refactoring stuff. It's really quite important area for the longevity of the project, which when we're talking about Kubernetes is going to be basic infrastructure for software in the next few decades. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you very much for helping me and finding places for me to contribute.
Yeah, no, we just, if you want to help, we want to help you. So all right, well, I guess that concludes the meeting for Tuesday, June 25th, and we will see everyone next week. Cheers.
Cheers. Happy Tuesday.
Yep.